kind of your focus now? Looking back at the season, what were you pleased with? What would you like to improve?
Yeah, I mean, you reflect and you review the season, and probably have the time to do that so far. You look at the last season, it was deemed as a good season. We finished 11th in the overall Support Shield standings out of 30, 5th in the Eastern Conference. This year we've finished 7th and 4th. So we've improved, and that's what we have to keep trying to do, because we want to be competitive. We want to be competitive to go and compete with, the best teams in this league, in the MLS, to try and win things. And maybe an unpopular opinion, but mine is still to win the Supporters' Shield rather than the MLS Cup. But that's just from my upbringing, because it's 34 games. In 34 games, I think you show a level of consistency. Whereas when you go into cup football, whether it be the US Open Cup, Leagues Cup, MLS playoffs, it can become a bit of a lottery. As we've just seen with New York, who've gone through, they've lost Martinez, they've lost Pereira, they've lost O'Neill for the next game. That makes a little bit of a mockery of the tournament for me, personally.
I'm willing to toss it around.
Really?
What do you think the team is missing?
There's pieces that we've missed. I mean, I look, we go into the playoffs, and there's only really Wilf as the DP. Liel was on the bench. Liel's probably not produced the numbers this season that we was hoping for, and that I've had a conversation with him on how we work together to make sure the numbers are applied. And I think if you then go into the end of the season with only one of your top players performing, then it's going to be tough. But we need to improve in positions all the time. Try and improve the depth, try and improve the team, and that will be coaching, but also recruitment as well. But smart recruitment, I'm with the owner and Zoran on this, that I don't want us to just go and throw money, which you can't anyway because there's a salary cap, but go and spend smartly and build a squad by spending smartly as well.
You mentioned Liel. Is it a situation where you think he's 100% assuredly back, or is it something where you have a conversation with Sporting and say, hey, if there's a position where we can improve on our DP, let's do it?
That'll be a conversation that the front office will have, obviously, with his representatives. I've had my soccer conversation with Liel, where he can improve, what he needs to improve on, how he earns the trust, not just from the staff but his teammates as well. And the kid tries, and he's a good kid as well. It just didn't quite happen for him at times last season.
Is there anybody dealing with any long-term injuries coming off the season, any surgeries, anybody who might not be available for preseason?
No, I don't believe so. There's only obviously Pep Biel who had the tendon problem, and he'll be coming back for pre-season, so that'll be good. And everybody else, he's fine, which is good.
What's the timeline of him being back fully able to do the things he could, or is it? I'm unsure, but I fully expect him to be training with us by the 14th.
Recording in progress.
14th, 15th of January.
Let's go to Steve real quickly.
Fran Bronico is re-signed and such, and successful teams have the glue guys that hold it together, hold others accountable and training like that. How important is that? Having guys like Brandt and bringing him back.
I think it's really important. He's dependable, and you want dependable players at your club. Very rarely misses training, always gives his all, and the majority of the games that he plays well. So we're really pleased that he's committed. He's from the Carolinas, and we know how much this club means for him, and I think that's really important in the dressing room as well. So he can continually pass on to the other players in that dressing room how important it is to play for this club.
And, you're very much, you call the other room the learning room here. What did you learn about this team this year, as opposed to the previous one?
I think that we can go and beat anybody, because we pretty much did. Last season, to go and win 19 games, I think we won out of 34. That proved to me that we can compete with anybody in the league. I'm still disappointed with the amount of games that we lost. And I think I've said throughout the league it was like 3 different things, and hopefully the league sorts the scheduling out. You can't go and play 10 out of 12 games on the road and then 8 out of 10 games at home. That doesn't make it a competitive league, and it starves supporters of the need to be at a game. Have a home game and away game, a couple of home games, a couple of away games, and you keep people interested.
Build habits.
But yeah, I mean, if we're on the road for 10 out of 12 games, that's really hard for our supporters. Having to watch every game on a screen rather than actually being there. And then also, if you're asking them to come 5 weeks on the spin, they've all got families as well. And, we need to make sure this is a spectator sport, because the supporters are the lifeblood of the community and the game.
And speaking of the scheduling, the MLS has announced going to the European calendar in 27. How do you feel about that?
I'm really pleased with it. and listen, I know that I've mentioned it before. I think if we want to be a competitive league with the top leagues in the world, then we had to move the calendar to compete with them. Not only in the transfer market, but also be playing the same time. And the top leagues are in Europe, and Europe doesn't watch the MLS playoffs because of when it is. If it's in May, there'll be a lot of people watching. I've never watched an MLS final, and that's because I'm from Europe. And I'll go back and there's Premier League games on that you go and watch. Now you've moved it to May when everything keeps finishing and it all comes to a crescendo, and our league will be doing the same. So our league can then start competing with these top leagues.
Deshaun, and then Carol?
I am curious, as you were meeting with guys for the last time before everyone went for their off-season break, what was your key message to the team?
Learn from this season and come back stronger. That's the main thing. There's things that we've done really well. There's things that we can do better. But these were more individual meetings about how I see where they are and where they see they are, and try and align our views. And I'm, as I always say to them, I'm a facilitator. It's your career, it's not mine. I've had my playing career many moons ago. My job is to help you improve and become a better player, and your job is 24/7. Mine is when I'm in the building with you. And we spoke about a few things that we can improve on as players, and what I see how they can improve to get better, and that's taking real ownership of your career, your IDPs, your individual development plans in terms of how you move and get better. Because if we get better individually, we get better as a collective.
In terms of, you mentioned building trust with Liel, extrapolating that to the rest of the team, it seemed like when you went to the bench, for example, in the playoffs, in Game 2, you only used one bench player, and I think that was incredibly telling as to maybe where your trust level was with some of the players. How do you go about creating more workable depth for intense games over the breadth of a season?
Yeah, if you looked at the bench, I think 3 or 4 of our players were defensive players. Mm-hmm. And we was never in a position really, because both ourselves and New York City were very good defensively, that we didn't really need to be making defensive subs. Mm-hmm. So yeah, what we need to do is make sure we've got more finishers who can come off the bench and change a game for us. At that time, I'm looking over my shoulder and thinking the players are on the pitch have got more chance of changing the game than the players coming off the bench, and that's just my personal decision at that time. So our job is to make sure that improves.
Would you want more, or players with more MLS experience on this squad?
I think you're always looking for players with MLS experience, and also domestic ones as well, because they understand the league, they understand what it means to be in this league as well. We've been successful as well in foreign markets, in the international market as well, bringing players in who've embraced what this is all about. Ashley Westwood being one of them, who's embraced everything about Charlotte FC. But we also need to look into the markets of MLS players, but domestic players as well.
When you talked about having this schedule change where people in Europe can see the playoffs in May, do you take it another step forward by saying it'd be more recognized, players would notice it and maybe want to come, that kind of thing?
Definitely,
Yeah.
it becomes more recognised. I had to, myself, coming over here in January, kind of reset my brain for February to November season. I've never done that before. Most European marriages are in May and June,
Right.
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 And most MLS marriages are in December, and so
I hear that.
So there's a big difference, and I had to kind of reset my brain. So, but as I say, if you want to compete in the markets as a league, then I think it was inevitable that it had to change.
And to have fewer international breaks, how big of an impact would that be as a coach?
Much bigger. I mean, again, the pinnacle of our season is, supposedly the playoffs. We've got 2 international breaks. That doesn't work.
Right.
That doesn't work. Martinez, New York, have just lost him with an ACL injury playing international football. If we'd gone through, imagine Toklamati and Ream come back injured, and you've got the biggest game in the club's history. That's wrong. So moving it to May now, you don't have that problem.
How difficult is it going to be to transition to this new schedule?
That's not my job.
It might be. We hope it is.
No, but I mean, that's the MLS's job
Right.
to transition. It won't take long to flip the switch back in my brain of going from, August to May again. So no, I think it's a step in the right direction for the league.
And profile of center back. Do you have a kind of guy you love to have now that you have the drawing board to create there?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that probably disappointed me, or has over the last 2 years, was I don't think Aaron Hyde's worked extremely hard on set pieces, and he's come up with some really, really good set pieces for us. We're very good from free kicks, in around the edge of the penalty box, crossing. But corners, we've not had enough players who get on the end of balls, and there's been some good deliveries, especially from Pep Biel, going into the penalty box. And it's something that Adil needed to work on and improve. Privs, Tim Ream, we don't score enough goals. So, one of the things for a set piece is it's got to be good in both boxes, aerially. I think a centre back should be scoring 5 or 6 goals a season. We've ended up relying on Pep and Wolf for 42 of our goal involvements this year, and that burden has to be shared a little bit more.
I think with some fans in this team, as soon as there's a loss, they look at the midfield and say there's not enough creativity, or Ashley's too old, or whatever. Like, what do you think about the midfield and how things are developed there?
The midfield's been fine. I mean, the midfielder's job is to help support the defensive unit, but also provide balls to the likes of Will, Pep, Toklamati. We scored enough goals in the regular season. I just felt in the playoffs with 3 games, both teams cancelled each other out. They scored 3 counter-attacks in the first game, a bit of a worldie in the first game. There weren't many more chances in the games from both teams. And as I say, in watching that game back, the third game, we were comfortably the better team as well.
How's Harry in the air?
Harry's not bad. He's got good delivery as well, though. but I don't really want my left back going over to the far right hand corner to take corners. But he's got good delivery.
And Tolkimani's
We're gonna have a
ball
camp
hawk.
after season.
Sorry?
Tolkimani is probably the best ball hawk I've seen on the team.
He is, and that's where we're going to be reliant on goals from centre forwards. But I want centre backs to come up with goals as well. Diani's got good height. Probably doesn't head it as well as he would like when he attacks the ball in the opposition box, and something he's got to get better at as well.
Camp.
Dean, kind of looking back more big season of this year, you mentioned all the club records you guys have set, all the first, the winning streak, all of that, but then still ending not the way you wanted to, losing twice at home in that first round. So when you look back on this season, I guess does the good outweigh the bad, or is the way it ended still going to put kind of a sour taste on this year?
No, because listen, it's a 3-game tournament. They need to change the format. I mean, my mates are phoning me and saying good luck in the next round. I'm like, we're out. Yeah, but you've won on penalties in New York. Yeah, but it doesn't work like that over here. Wilfred Nancy said they outscored Cincinnati but went out. It's just a weird format. Just 2 legs, please, home and away, and the aggregate score goes through, or you take it to penalties. The team that finishes higher has the home advantage in the second game. If it goes to extra time and penalties, you're at home. That's all they need. You don't need 3 games of 90 minutes. As disappointed as I am going out, I was really pleased with our performance in the second and third games. So disappointed, but on the whole, a really good season. My biggest disappointment was New York away in the league, because we were going for the outright record of wins in this league, and we kicked off at stupid o'clock in front of the one man and his dog, which could have, we could have been the record holders of a winning run in our 4th year. We still hold it with Seattle, but come on. That's a big thing, or it should be a big thing in the league. And we're kicking off at 11 or 12 o'clock, midday.
And then kind of going off of that as well, you talk about the win streak that came immediately after the really rough stretch, and I know a lot of it had to do with scheduling, playing 10 and 12 on the road, but just looking at the season that was kind of defined by long stretches of lows and then long stretches of highs. How do you find more consistency going into next year to make sure you don't have to dig yourself out of the hole kind of like you did this year?
I think consistency is winning 19 games in out of 34, and yes, I know there's been spells, but to make a team, I think it's been unprecedented that you go and play 10 out of 12 games away from home. In this league, with the travel in this league as well, and that's something that needs to be looked at. But the thing for me is you've got to be good in that regular season. You've got to be more consistent in that regular season. 19 wins is outstanding. But can we go better now? Because I'd like to be sat here being Philly, and credit to Philly because the Supporters' Shield is the one to win for me.
We'll go to Sam Spencer.
Dean, I hope you've had a nice little break.
I've had a little break, yeah. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah. So just first off, wanted to start off really quick. A lot of talk just now about center back scoring goals. Does that come from being a center back who's scored a very nice amount of goals?
Yeah, 72. Sammy, thanks for asking.
What was it? 677 games?
Yeah, just short of 700. Yeah. I am a 1 in 10. Somebody could write a song about that, can't they?
Better than a lot of things.
I did want to ask Charlotte over the Cup playoffs. There have been 7 postseason matches with the team, 6 under your leadership, and Charlotte's only led for 21 of those total minutes. What can you, even if the focus is on the Shield, what can you improve in terms of being able for the team to show up better in these playoff matches?
Well, I thought we were very unfortunate in this playoff format. If you look at the games in isolation, which you have to do because that's the playoffs, the first game, They had a chance after 5 minutes. We have a chance after 10 minutes. We've Bram Bronico, and then for half an hour they were on top of us and scored a goal. Second half we were on top of them and couldn't break them down. Second game we played well. Third game we played excellent, but unfortunately didn't find a way to score the goal that should have won us the game. Missed a couple of really good chances, but they're only very, very small margins in games like that. And like I said before, I think there was only 2 points between the two teams all season after 34 games, and you know it could have gone either way. Either team could have gone through.
Branching off of that, you know, how do you do that mentality for, you know, competitions that folks may be more used to in Europe, like the U.S. Open Cup, like Leagues Cup, you know, where you have a knockout competition involved?
Well, the US Open Cup, we've only been in it once. That was this season. And we went to North Carolina away, went DC away. We were the much better team at DC and lost on penalties. Didn't take very good penalties on the night. But if anybody says that we didn't take that competition or we took that competition lightly, they'd be wrong. You don't travel, you know, on the bus to Raleigh and then on the plane up to DC and not take these things seriously. We did. We played well enough in both games to win both games, but it's a cup competition, and cup competitions can, you know, they're a little bit like lotteries, aren't they? You need a little bit of luck in them competitions, with the draw sometimes, with the bounce of the ball, you know. And we'll continue to try and improve in the US Open. The Leagues Cup competition at the moment is new to everybody. What is it? 3 years old. 3 years old, and they're coming up with, you know, different formulas all the time. You know, this competition was different to last year's competition. You know, I'm not sure what next year's competition is going to be or how it's going to look. You know, we have to come to terms with that. The time when it wasn't good timing for me, obviously for personal reasons, losing my father-in-law leading into the first game.
With the new international schedule, there's the current proposal is that there's going to be a you know, 14, 18 something game sprint or 17 game sprint season, something like that in the first half of 2027. Have you ever played a season that short?
If you can call it a season, was obviously when the COVID break hit, and then we had 10 games left after, you know, 3 months off. So it'll probably be a little bit similar to that.
And then finally, for me, you know, now you've been a part of the Charlotte community for 2 years. You know, I think we're really close. You know, less than a month from your 2-year anniversary of the first press conference here. All across Charlotte, including with many of our supporters groups for Charlotte FC, there's been a lot of concern recently about the large immigration enforcement action. I think almost all the Charlotte FC supporters groups, you know, issued statements in solidarity with fans and fans who happen to be immigrants, and just wanted to know if you had any words of support for the fan base that's had a really tough week.
Yeah, as you know, I'm an international import for this country, and I remain apolitical, as the BBC should do as well. But the most important thing is what Charlotte FC and Tepper Sports and the Panthers think of our community, and there's a lot of love there. We welcome their support for our games, and we give support back to them.
Cheers. Thank you very much, and have a good vacation.
Thank you very much.
The
Is that holiday?
That's good. Going back to set pieces. You had the long throw in game 3. You had the set piece that led to the 2 transition goals. We'll leave the third out. But given how much you were creating from open play, is there a regret that you were as aggressive on those set pieces as you were leading to the transition?
No, because, you know, Toff had only just come into the team after injury, you know, and we knew he had a long
Recording
throw.
stopped.
It was the last minute of the half. We were okay behind the ball, but we made poor decisions behind the ball. That was the only reason we conceded the goal.
In terms of profile of center back that you're looking for to bring in, would you want to bring in somebody more along the lines of where Adi was when he got here, somebody who is a growth, or would you rather have somebody more proven to mix with what you have?
I think one of the things that we need is some mobility from the centre back as well. You know, we've got good players there. Andrew Privet was a major part of the team last year, played over 50% of the games this year. And, you know, I have no doubts that next season will be strong for us. Tim Ream will be looking to go to the World Cup. And I thought the last month of the season was his probably best form he's showed since he's been at the club, and was one of our best players, you know, during the playoffs as well. So it's a position that we feel we're strong in, and one that we can continue to, you know, recruit in. And mobility is going to be one. Ball playing skills is another, but again, good in both boxes. And you know, yeah, I wasn't here when Adi first came, but you know, my first pre-season, I was impressed with him. You know, and I hope whoever comes, whoever we bring in, is going to have, you know, half the attitude and application that he had.
Wilf is in a bit of a different situation where he's under contract until the middle part of the season. How do you and the sporting department kind of handle that part of it? Do you try to get it at least extended to the end of the year, or is maybe something more long term in your vision? That's
the beauty of being a head coach. I can just talk football and leave the front office to deal with, you know, Wilf's contract at the end of June. But I've had a meeting with Wilf at the end of the season, thanked him for what he'd done this season for us, and you know, spoke about what I think he can do to improve us again, you know, next season. And you know, enjoyed having him around.
Carol?
What could he do to improve for Charlotte next season?
Who? The one I want him to be a better leader. You know, on the pitch, he's emotional. You know, and I think sometimes that can. I think if other players look at some of his emotions at times, they can see it another way, even though he means it well. And you know, that's what we spoke about pretty much. I want him to be, you know, a part of me on the pitch. You know, and he was good with that. And yeah, I see what you mean.
I'm curious about your goalkeeper conversations with maybe Drake Callender and Kalina, you know, going into next year. What should their mindset be? Or like, Drake, was he fully healthy? I mean, is he fully healthy?
He's fully healthy now, yeah. Obviously, he'd come here having had an operation. Aaron Hyde's worked extremely well. For me, Az is the best goalkeeping coach in the league. And Az has worked really, really hard with him, and he's got him to a place now where, you know, he's there to compete. And, you know, with Callie, and Callie's finished the season off really well. You know, having had a dip that season, and you know, the two of them go and compete away.
And how about the younger keepers? You know, Dunsey and the others.
Yeah, Dunsey's had a bit of a mixed season because of injury. He had a hip operation. Sorry, in case you're thinking music. And he missed the majority of the season because of that. So you know, we need to get him games. He needs to go and play games somewhere, whether we can find a loan for him or not, but he needs to play games to get into a run of what being a goalkeeper is all about.
You got another young one in Holiday who's on a first team contract as well. Similar situation?
He's not really been a lot with me, so I haven't seen a lot of Nick. He's been more with the legacy. So that'll be a conversation for obviously legacy.
And your comfort with the legacy and what you see coming up from there? Are there players there who are going to make an impact?
I was really impressed watching them last year. I thought Gary Dicker, even though they didn't make the playoffs for the first time, I was really pleased how they were coached. You know, when the players have stepped up and worked with us, their tactical understanding was really, really good. You know, so I'm really pleased with what I've seen with that, and yeah, that continues, because the biggest thing for legacies, listen, we all want them to go and win the playoffs and you know for the MLS Next Pro, but the biggest, most important thing is development, making sure we've got players that are developing who can move on and play for the first team. You know, and we'll have a few of them train with us during pre-season, so we can have a good look at them, and hopefully then some of them move into the squad.
And of the younger players, Petrovic and the other ones, the ones who have come up, who do you see, you know, having a greater impact on next season?
I don't know yet. Yeah, I don't know. You know, a lot of our concentration, obviously, at the end of the season was getting to the playoffs, trying to win in the playoffs. So, you know, the pre-season will be a good yardstick for me to learn about them.
Carol?
Is your staff, are there any changes to your coaching staff? Or?
Not at this moment, no.
In terms of, you know, guys like Nympha, the homegrowns, those kind of guys, you know, I know that this club is still in its infancy, but have you seen strides made with players like him, Romero, Aaron John, those kind of guys? Yeah, I mean, and they're all different because they're all individual. You know, AJ was excellent the season before, finished the season really well, started training, obviously been dogged by, he went with the US national team, ended up getting injured and hasn't played many games since then. Romero spent pre-season with us. Jack Neely's come through and did well with us. You know, we've got Morrison Adjumang now as well, who's been training with us and has looked really good as a centre back. So there's quite a few players, and as you know, it takes time. But you know, we're as a club willing to nurture them through, and we have to.
Did you see Nympha in the U17?
I've seen bits and bobs of him. Yeah, I'm meeting him this afternoon. You know, just to review his year because he's been away. Obviously, I'll sit down with Tim and Bill as well because they've been away internationally.
He had a big game against Tajikistan. I was watching some of it last night. You know, scoring the header at the far post and then creating the penalty kick that won that game for them. And he's been an influential player, but they've changed their lineup on that team a lot. Yeah, so it didn't seem to have a lot of consistency in the tournament.
I didn't watch loads of it, I must admit. You know, I mean, my season's done, so.
In terms of people who are in the, I would say the Malanda, Ajimon category players that you could sell for a profit to further their career, is there anybody on your roster you feel like is untouchable now? The sporting department comes to you, hey, we want to get this player. Is there anybody you would say, no, I want to keep him? That kind of thing.
Toklamati. You know, I just look at the way he's improved and impressed since taking off the role from Patrick, scoring goals, and I know he didn't score as many in the last 4 or 5 games, but he's got all the tools. You know, went and played for his national team last week as well, so you know he's one where you know we've signed Archie. Archie's going to be a work in progress for us. First time out of his native Australian country. I hope they get smashed in the Ashes cricket, but you know he's one that we've got to work with who can be pushing Idan. But Idan's become a really important part of the way we play because of his physicality, his athleticism, but the skills that he has, the skills he has aerially and tactically as well.
What about Kerwin?
Kerwin's improved as well. You know, I spoke to him at the end of the season. I was disappointed in the last game. He put too many crosses into the goalkeeper's hands, and that's an area where he had improved. You know, but he's a young lad who keeps improving, and you know his tally was better this year than it was last year, but that has to improve again.
We've got time for 2 more, if anybody has any.
What did you talk to Idan about working on or thinking about?
I haven't because he obviously went off to international duty.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you think?
I'll tell you after I've told him.
Okay. I'm not going to break the news for him. Okay.